Hello, my name is Ariana Payton, and I'm going to be talking to you today about the four dimensions of leadership that help contribute to communication. My information today will be specifically on a worship team, so that will be the vein I will be staying in and talking about. We're first going to talk about how to build your team, because before we have a team to lead, we need a team to start with. So we want to find the diamond in the rough. We want to find someone with good character, someone looking to get plugged in, someone in need of mentorship, someone showing servant heart leadership. This can be at a church, this can be anywhere that you desire to start a worship team. We just want to find people who are willing. They don't need to have crazy amounts of talent, but just find somebody who has maybe in a different hobby, or somebody who brings a different element, somebody that shines that you didn't know about. Bring those people, involve the people who maybe aren't involved. Find the talent in the gold. Before we can worry about team health, we need a team. A worship team is full of moving parts, and anyone can be useful. For example, there could be somebody who is very organized, and we could have them in charge of admin or practicing, making the practice schedule and the Sunday schedule. A worship team is not meant to be Our worship team is meant to be a community and inviting. The more we have diverse groups of people and talents, we can better do our job at inviting the congregation to worship. Don't turn your nose away to the non-musical people. Understand, a worship team is made possible with a lot of moving parts that all have purpose. We need to remember that every single person has purpose, from the sound people to the photographers and the bass player, the keys player, the vocalist. Everybody has a place, and when we find those people that have different talents, we can have a dancer on a worship team or something people haven't seen before. So we want to make sure we're including everybody. Understand that at the beginning, it might be super challenging. However, when you earn the trust of your people and prove that you want to build people and not a program, the team will build. Be patient. Some practical steps to get started with your team. Find team members that are a good fit. Cultivate trust and accountability. This is done by relational equity. It takes time to set a culture. Be intentional about building those relationships, the team and relationships within the team. Share the wins. Make sure you celebrate a lot. Make sure you're always calling out the good more than you're calling out the bad. Create a healthy culture with constructive criticism. But most of all, remember, the team is not a reflection of your leadership. In the meantime, love this team and the people, and it will start working. Now, how to prioritize communication that builds the heart, soul, mind, and strength. Some practical steps. We're going to want communication to be face to face. Over text, things can be really misread and really misconstrued, and that is not the type of disunity you want on a team. Start or end every meeting, every time your team meets, with open communication time. This can look like asking for wins, asking for what's not working. Just make sure you know where your team is at. You don't want to be a blind leader who isn't very sure how your team feels about some things you might be implementing. Clarify the level of priority when it comes to meetings, events, or practices. This is another communication error that is made so often. We forget to remind people their mandatory attendance, of their mandatory attendance. And what that looks like is, maybe you have a meeting on a Sunday night and somebody might see that it could be optional, and maybe to you the meeting is super important, and if you don't explain that, you've never given anybody a chance to really meet your expectations. So why communication on a worship team is so important. Unfortunately, the music industry can be very competitive. Many can feel shorted and unseen. Many can feel like they're competing for a part or competing for a solo. We don't want anybody to feel that way. We need communication for everyone to feel, even though they're all starting at different starting points, we want them all to feel like they are growing and actually growing. Creating the least amount of issues as possible helps spend less time on communication errors and more time on worshiping God. There are different types of communication that are going to be super valuable throughout this presentation. And that's going to look like nonverbal, visual, written, listening, and body language. Everything we do is communication. All communication is important and affects the perception of what individuals view our teams to be like. Why is this important? A good leader has great communication. On a worship team, there are 4 main dimensions we must touch and communicate through: heart, soul, mind, and strength. Leading from your heart. When you lead from your heart, you lead from an understanding of who you are. When we know who we are, now we have the ability to understand others. I even included a personality test here that's super great to get to know your team members before you have time maybe to get to know them. This is going to be really good to know. You're introverted, you're outroverted, or you're introverted and extroverted, the goal-driven people, the discipline-driven people, the dreamers. You want to know these little things about your team. This helps understand who your team is from a psychology standpoint. Communication from the heart looks like relational equity. Each member on your team needs spoken to, interacted with differently from all scales. For example, leader to team member, team member to team member, team member to leader. You want everybody to know each other so everyone knows how to speak to each other. When I lead from a place of knowing who I am, I can lead with security and communicate in love, knowing that there are times I might not have it right, and that's okay. Don't ever lead or communicate through fear. Speak directly to the person's heart. You will know this once you have a chance to get to know the individual. Leading from the soul. When leading from the soul, you lead with good character. Everyone on a worship team needs to be actively working on character and pursuing holiness. We achieve this through discipline. To ensure discipline on a team, we need to establish a devotional plan for the team to pursue soul health together. You can't always be sure that every individual is going to be in their own time really seeking the word, but as a leader, and when you are pursuing discipline yourself, when you are pursuing holiness yourself, that overflows on your team, and you can make sure that you are setting things in place for your team to also get a piece of that. What is soul health? Let's take a look at what the Bible has to say about that. I love the verse Romans 12:1. It says, I appeal to you, therefore, brothers, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship. We know that soul health is spiritual, and when we take care of our soul health, we realize our body is a temple, and therefore when we treat our body well, we are able to offer it up to God as a holy sacrifice that God sees as worthy. And in the worship world, this is so vital. As you can see on this diagram I made, soul health turns to team health, and team health turns to health that overflows to the congregation. As a worship team, we are called to live clean, pure lives. As a leader, you should be self-reflecting often. And in your self-reflection time, be sure to communicate what God is teaching you to your team so they know that it is okay to be human. You should be implementing accountability, and after this seminar, accountability partners can be picked. And this is to have a friend guide you and walk along a path with you of humanity, that none of us are perfect, and we all need to check in with somebody. We all need to make sure that we are walking accordingly. Leading from the health of the mind. I love this quote in the book we got to read, and it's, as a leader, you must commit to constant learning and be a fanatic about it. How to keep the team sharp mentally in different ways for communication to contribute. While you are soaking up knowledge every day, you cannot expect everyone else to be on your team. Give your team chances to grow their knowledge, because some team members, their minds may need this. For example, you could send your team the same core charts over and over and over, but there might be one individual who wants to learn something new, send them a YouTube video with a tutorial. Maybe a fun new part, maybe a fun new something, a fun new thing to implement. Give them opportunity to grow and learn. Another thing I think is a great idea, providing huddles with lessons available. And this could look like, if you have a lot of acoustic guitar players, bring in a really good acoustic guitar player to help teach those acoustic players some things they maybe didn't know about, some new chord progressions, maybe a new key, maybe something about a capo. Give your team ways to learn, because we must acknowledge as leaders that we aren't going to know everything there is to know about everything. The reason that this is so important for the communication aspect is that some team members will need to be included in things such as this to feel valuable on the team. I've seen it time and time again. Many people are eager to be on teams, but they don't have the resources. So while I'm learning, make sure we're sharing the knowledge with the team that we are gaining. Leading from the mind continued. This also can look like being a good team manager. When you're organized, you're for your team. You want to create an organized and efficient environment. Give easy access to all information about the organization or the team. This could look like when rehearsals are, when meetings are, when performances are. Give team members a chance to vision cast new ideas, or give the opportunity for minds to be sharpened from thinking hard. Have a good session where everybody's just bouncing ideas off each other. This is super helpful. The kindest communication for a team is organization, where team members can mentally take a load off to focus on the other areas we need them in. Leading with strength. Why this maximizes team health. Actions speak louder than words. Do you remember those slides from a couple slides ago when we talked about communication can be nonverbal? This is that time. Sometimes the strongest communication is observed. There will be team members who learn from observation more than words. They will learn from watching you. That will be their form of communication, over hearing you speak. This starts with a life of integrity. We cannot expect our team to value a life we don't live. Be a leader that models discipline and lives a life that excites your team to see the same results in their life they see from yours. A strong team is a unified team. Living disciplined helps each member know their strengths and weaknesses. When done correctly, you will have a beautiful operating team that communicates boundaries, strengths, weaknesses, and starts functioning all together. Communication health. Good communication must touch all four parts: heart, mind, soul, strength. A good communicator is a good leader. When you lead from and value the team's heart, mind, soul, and strength, you start to become an extraordinary leader. What is an extraordinary leader? An extraordinary leader understands the power of connection, influencing others out of relationship and not authority. They bring encouragement. They live a life that allows conviction, and letting those convictions guide you. We cannot lead others where we are unwilling to go ourselves. Only allow soul-filled conversations that uplift the soul. Be a great manager. Make sure things on your team get executed. Try new ideas, but always engage the mind. Be strategic and efficient. Have strong vision. Why all of this is important. When we have healthy leaders leading people who have the ability to get healthy, we now have created unity. You can create a wonderfully functioning system that now can run without you. You give others an atmosphere where they can step up. Leadership is about producing other leaders. Build people, not programs. In a world with so much broken leadership that hurts people every day, we can be extraordinary leaders. Healthy leaders that create healthy leaders. Of course, we will never be perfect, but we start small. Find a team, create a team. Love them so big. Get that relational equity in there. Care about them and let them know you care about them. Pour into them. Pour into their spiritual health. Grow them. Sharpen their minds. Raise up another. discipline them, unify them, and make sure your team is walking with you. Thank you for listening to this presentation.